Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to go over the short story, The Smallest Dragonboy, which occurs in the anthology, A Gift of Dragons. But before we get into the story, I would just always like to ask you to please like, subscribe, turn on notifications. That way you know when new videos come out, because they can come fast and furious at times, and sometimes it might take a little while, but this way you would know. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'm always interested in hearing from you, whether it's a Goodreads name or something that you might want me to read and leave a comment on, or what you think of the series or of the videos. I'd love to hear from you. And spread the word. It helps me out, and it's all good. So, in this story, about 33 pages long, minus a few because you have a couple of illustrations. It takes place again around an impression, as it seems like a lot of the short stories that Anne McCaffrey has written do. They take place around an impression, and this one is basically from the perspective of a weird-bred boy named Kevin. Uh, he's small, as the title will indicate. He's just turned 12 by a day, so by one day he is eligible to be in the impression ceremony, to be standing on the sands. He's faced a bully pretty much his whole life named, I'm going to say Betterly. It could be Bertily, but I was reading it as Betterly. Let me know down below what you think, if it's something different. But basically, I mean, this kid, he's on his last impression. He's had 8, and couldn't impress one dragon yet. So the main crux is just how Kevin really wants to prove to everybody that he really is a dragon rider, that he needs to impress a dragon at his first hatch. That is like the most important thing for him, is to do that. During the noon chores, he has to go and get rock for the hearth. And it seems like this is something that every candidate has been assigned. So, as Kevin is doing this, he gets confronted by Betterly. And now, the night before, there was a lot of talk at the dinner table saying, dragon riders, and them saying that, you need to drop, you got 40 eggs, 72 candidates, you need to drop out some of the young ones. Some of the ones that they won't be ready to fight Thread in like a long time. And then you have other ones that say, well, why don't you drop out the ones that haven't impressed after, impression after impression. So Betterly kind of plays on this and says, hey, didn't you hear the news? Babes don't give orders to candidates, babes. Meaning you're the youngin', you're the odd one out. And he takes Kevin's shovel. And Kevin gets it back and to finish his chore, and Betterly is trying to get it back. And there's more people coming. There's more of the candidates that are coming around to see what's going on. And what happens is Betterly gives him sort of this, I guess I would call it maybe a cross check, a hockey cross check, that hits him in the chest. He falls over the barrow that he's putting the rock in. Basically breaks his leg, and I guess you could say maybe a skull fracture, or at least just enough of a head injury to knock him out. So when he wakes up, he's basically in bed, Numbweed has basically numbed his leg, it's numbed his head. He still feels the pain, but he feels kind of dizzy. And nobody's coming in to see him, and he's wondering why. So he asks his foster mother, why isn't anybody here? And she's like, they're all out doing chores. And then he hears the dragons hum and looks over and sees that his white tunic that the candidates wear is the only one there. And before this happens, this takes place in Ben and Weir. So Lessa is asking Kevin what happened. She heard from everybody else what happened. She wants to get his story. So he tells her what happened. And Lessa's like, well, Beverly's out. He's not going to be at this impression. But it doesn't seem like you're going to be either because you're bed laid. And this is something that he just can't take. And his foster mother says, well, you are, but you aren't. So she's not saying that that you can't be at the impression, but you probably won't impress. So he gives it a go. He gets up. He stands up. Finds he can't really walk on the leg. The world's spinning around him. But he goes down to the living. He slides down this rampway basically to the living quarters so he can get the stick that they use to help dry laundry. And he uses it as like a walking stick or a crutch, hopping on his good foot. And he makes it to the hatching ground, but there are already dragons that have impressed. And he's dismayed by this. He's discouraged by it. Disappointed. And he says, well, he thinks to himself, I can't take the embarrassment if I can't impress one. So he starts to move off into the corner in the shadows where he can't be seen. And you hear Flar and Lessa. And if you've been following this series, you will know that they're basically Weir leader and Weir woman of Ben and Weir. Say, weird, only 39 sets of impressions. Lessa said, or Lessa asked, do you ever remember a time when a dragon didn't impress? And Flar before said, no, not that I can remember. So they're trying to figure this out. Who is it looking for? They're either looking for Betterly or for Clast's son, which is Kevin. So Kevin's dad is a dragon rider. Well, the next thing you know, there's a gasp through the crowd. The dragon starts to go toward the corner of the hatching ground where there's shadow, where the shadows are. And he basically works his way to Kevin, who's sobbing at this point. He's just beyond himself, disappointed, just sobbing. And the dragon is basically nudging him, saying, hey, don't be afraid, I'm here. And Kevin doesn't really know what's going on. He hears the voice in his head, and he's just like, leave me alone. And the dragon comes back and says, why, don't you like me? And that's at that point, that's when Kevin stops the sobbing, looks up and sees a bronze dragon that he is impressing. A bronze. He said, when the story begins, he said he'd be happy with a blue. He'd be happy with a green. He doesn't even think he's going to get. He doesn't even think he'd be worthy of a brown. They're too big, let alone to get a bronze, which he does get. So Lessa asks him, well, what's his name, Kevin? Or basically, she shortens his name, Kavan. And everybody at that point knows, Lessa's going to know as soon as the dragon says it, as soon as Kavan knows because Les is one of the few that can basically hear all the dragons, which makes me wonder what the next story, the girl who heard dragons, is going to be about. Maybe Lessa. I don't know. We'll see. So basically, the dragon gives him his name, Hef, and says, "I'm hungry." So Lessa's like, "Flar, give this kid a hand. He can barely walk on his own legs. Give him a hand. Get him and the dragon to where they can eat." And basically, Kavan is proving, "Hey, I can do this," and he manages, and the impression is done, and it's a happy occasion all the way across, and that's the end of the story. So, like I said, it's about 33 pages. Take a few away because you have a few drawings. The pages aren't long. It's a pretty quick read, and I think in this one, I mean, the impression, again, it's so quick that it's the moments leading up to the impression that take up the whole story. Just as in the impression, if you could look back at that video of the short story I did on that one from A Dragon Lover's Guide to Pern, is that the impression is supposed to be the most important time when the dragon and the ride and person impress, when they become weirmate forever, when they become linked telepathically forever. But yet, it's gone like that. It's over like that. But I will say I will give this story a 4.8 because I liked Kevin. I liked the underdog, and that the underdog was able to come away and not just impress, but to impress a bronze. Which means at some point down the road, if he wants, he could become Weir Leader. Because remember, when gold queens fly for the mating flight, bronzes are the only ones that go after him. So he's got a dragon that's going to be able to possibly fly the queen down the road. I mean, it's not going to be Lessa because by the time his dragon and he are old enough, they might not be around. But yeah, just the overall idea of the underdog, the one who's picked on, the one who says, "You're not going to impress. You're not a dragon rider. You're too small." You know, much like people that are told, basketball players that are told, "You're too small to play." Football players, "You're too small to play. You're too small to ride a dragon. You can't even see over a dragon egg." But the dragons choose, not the people. And that's the thing that I think is stressed the most out of these impression stories. It's the dragons who choose. And no matter what the theorists say, no matter what people try to think, it's the dragons that choose, and they never make mistakes. So, yep, 4.8. I would recommend it. It's part of the Pern canon, part of the literature. I thought it was a good story, a quick story, and worthy of reading. So with that, again, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you have any books or series that you might want me to read and talk about, let me know. And spread the word. That always helps me out. So again, until next time, as always, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.